order the City of Isani City Council meeting for Tuesday, June 4th. If we can all stand for pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All council members are present. We do have a proclamation. It is the Mayor's Employee Celebration Day.
Excuse me, Mayor, Council, adopt the agenda.
I'm so sorry. I do that every time. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
Motion to adopt the agenda.
I have a motion by Councilman Lundin and a second by Councilman Collison. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Ms. Woods, was there any agenda?
There are no agenda modifications.
Oh my goodness. With that being said, proclamations, commendations, or certified awards, we do have the Mayor's Employee Celebration Day for June 18th. I'll say a brief Mayor's proclamation for the City of Isani, whereas employees and employers are a dynamic part of the city's and Minnesota's economy, and whereas the promotion of the employers and their talented staff showcase the strength and the success, which is an integral part of the City of Isani's economic development strategy, and whereas all Isanti employers located within the City of Isani provides jobs which significantly contribute to the City of Isani's standard of living and economic vitality. And whereas the City of Isani has approximately 1,928 people that are employed within its corporate limits, and whereas employees contribute to the economic success of Isani's businesses by buying local and supporting other Isani businesses. And whereas the city EDA is sponsoring an appreciation luncheon to the employers and employees on June 18th, 2019, highlighting certain businesses with milestone Isani anniversaries. Now therefore, I, Jeff Johnson, Mayor of the City of Isani, do hereby proclaim that the day of June 18th, 2019 shall be observed as Mayor's Employer Celebration Day in the City of Isani on this 4th day of June, 2019. Do I have a motion to approve the City Council minutes?
Make a motion to approve. Second.
I have a motion to approve the City Council minutes by Councilman Lundin and second by Councilman Collison. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Announcements. Committee of the Whole, Tuesday, June 18th at 2019, 5 p.m. City Council meeting Tuesday, June 18th as well at 7 p.m. Planning Commission meeting Tuesday, June 18th, immediately following the City Council meeting. Park and Recreation Board meeting Tuesday, June 25th at 6 p.m. Are there any council committee reports? I do have one myself. I have a community education meeting June 10th at 5 p.m. that I cannot attend, and I'm looking for one of you fellows to do it for me. It is a Monday, 5 p.m.
The alternative on that.
There isn't.
There isn't any?
No. I would appreciate it, just whatever information you get back, Councilman Gordon. If you could bring it to me, that'd be awesome. I appreciate it, sir. There are no public hearings. Moving on to the business items. Discussion on fair and equal enforcement of T21. Countywide, I mean. Mr. Gordon, you put this on the agenda, sir. Do you have anything you'd like to say?
Yeah, I just wanted to have a quick discussion on it. I don't want to take up a lot of your time. I know we've got a lot of things on the agenda tonight, but But most of you, I think, are aware of the T21 ordinance that was amended, or the Isani County ordinance that was amended to make the purchasing age for tobacco products 21. That went into effect on the 1st of June here, so this last Saturday. In Isani here, we go through our tobacco licensing, it's through the county itself, so we go along with that. So if they're at 21, we're at 21. But Cambridge and Graham, though, are doing their own licensing, and so they're still at 18 for all their businesses. So we're at a competitive disadvantage, I think, on that. Graham is discussing it more in detail tonight, and it sounds like that eventually will pass there, but it's something that it's maybe going to take a little time for them to get done. And then at Cambridge, they're going to discuss it again on the 17th of this month. And it sounds like that's something that probably will not pass there, is kind of the indication that I've gotten from their city administrator there. So, you know, I thought that was kind of unfair to our businesses to have to compete at that, and so I went around and talked with them a little bit, and I think most of the businesses in town are, they're okay with 21 as far as the buying age, but they want to see it fairly informed. You know, they don't want to be at a disadvantage for no reason. If they can just go up to Cambridge and buy stuff, well, that doesn't really, you know, serve the purpose that I think that 21 rule was designed for. So, I think there's maybe a couple of different approaches we could take. It sounds like the county, I talked to the county attorney there, and he said that they could do a public health ordinance, and that would force compliance on this issue. And they didn't really want to go that route. They were hoping to get, you know, kind of voluntary compliance from the cities and that type of thing. Anyway, I think we could maybe take sort of a two-pronged approach to solving this issue, and I think maybe we could request that the city staff sends a letter over to the county and ask them to go ahead and enact a public health ordinance that would level the playing field, at least in the county here. And I think we could also maybe, at the same time, we could take an approach to possibly draft an ordinance that would allow for us to do our own tobacco licensing in case that, you know, the city of Cambridge doesn't act or the county doesn't act. That would protect our business interests that way as well. So I just wanted to see what you guys thought about it and see if get some feedback from you and see if it was something you guys were interested in, maybe moving forward on some of those options.
Well, we have an advantage here, we have our county commissioner, Mike Waring here. His thoughts might be apropos for that.
We could also move this to committee of a whole, so we can have more of a discussion. If
Sure. Commissioner
Commissioner Waring wouldn't mind attending that at the end of the month, and we can have that discussion in a more in depth. I think that would be appropriate.
Your thoughts, Ms. Wood?
Mayor and council, that would be appropriate to have a further discussion, maybe have more input from the county, and maybe by that time, we would have maybe more information on what the other cities within the county are doing, and that may help guide if there is a change that the council so fits to discuss.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then that gives Mr. Waring some time to research on that too. I mean, it's, I understand the whole premises of the T21 bill, but it's still kind of stupid. They can't purchase it, but they can still smoke if they're under, how you get it?
Exactly.
I mean, it's kind of a catch-22 double-edged sword, so it's, I haven't quite understood it myself, but they can go off to war and get shot and killed at 18, but
Which isn't a good idea.
No.
To send somebody that's 18 to war, but
yeah.
smoking's not a good idea either when you're young.
But if you're gonna smoke, you're gonna smoke. If you're gonna drink, you're gonna drink. So laws are there to help you, but they're not always there. It's gonna, steer you in that direction, so.
Right.
I think that's what we do, Councilman Gordon, was we'll just move it to committee of the whole so we can have a more in-depth discussion and
Sure.
get a little more input. And
Sure.
you're okay with that, sir?
That'd be fine with me.
Awesome. Moving on to the resolution 2019 approving contract for chief of police position. I hope all you council members looked at this.
Right. Mayor and council.
Go ahead, Ms. Wood.
Mayor and council, as you review this, I have highlighted, so what the contract for the employment agreement for Travis Myers is included in your packet. There is a sheet that was included at your spots as well as at the media table that has number 9 in red for the city vehicle draft. That is just the same language that is in your memo. However, that draft did not make it into the packet, so we apologize for that. But looking at the employment agreement, this does follow our city format that we've used for all of our department head staff. Not that I want to say that it's cookie cutter, but for the most part, council should have all recognized this format already. A couple things that I'd like to highlight, that the salary step would be at step 6 at $95,551.94. Vacation accrual would be for his time that he's already been with the city of Isanti. The schedule would be the ability to work 4 10-hour days, which is also consistent with that position. And really the one thing that would be of a discussion point would be the city vehicle. This has not been done within the city of Isanti, however, is, I don't know if I want to use the word typical, but has used in other city police departments for their police chief.
Well, and you also, before you were here, Ms. Woods, our second or third public works director had one taking it home, and he was driving all the way to North Mora with with the company, with the city vehicle.
I'm not aware of that, but.
Yeah, and Mr. Myers is only a few miles from town, so,
If there's any questions that anybody has on this contract, Mr. Myers is in the hallway right now, I do see him, so we could bring him forward if anybody has any questions. I myself, I know Mr. Myers lives probably 4 miles away from here with an emergency vehicle, and him being the emergency management director, if I have that correct, Ms. Wood?
I believe that that is probably very true. I would like to let the mayor and council know, it really does not matter where
Yep.
Travis Meyer lives.
It's true.
It is something that is consistently done within other police departments,
And it is.
regardless of the mileage. I just want to point that out.
The point that I was trying to make,
He does
Ms.
live
Wood, is
relatively close.
he might live 4 miles away, but if we had an emergency within the city of Isanti, he could be here within 2 minutes if he had that vehicle
yeah.
versus if he didn't.
I'm gonna give you this, I'm gonna say this, I'm make a motion to accept this contract as written, with the highlighted issues, and move forward with it.
I have a motion to move forward with contract as is with highlighted issues from Councilman Lundin and a second by Councilman Burgley. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Ordinance amending city code, adding chapter 144, drug paraphernalia. Ms. Wood.
Mayor and council, this is an ordinance to include drug paraphernalia to our city code. This was sent and discussed at committee of the whole, posted for the 10 required days, and is brought before you, and staff is recommending approval as written.
I make a motion to approve.
Motion by Councilman Lundin to approve, second by Councilman Collison. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Nay.
4-1. Therefore, motion carries.
Would you mind if I make a comment on that real quick?
Absolutely, go ahead, sir.
I think that we're all in agreement that, I don't want to see that kind of stuff sold in our community, and it's not for disagreements on that point. I just think that people can vote with their feet, and if they don't like what a business is selling, they don't have to shop there. And I just think that it's, just leave it up to people to decide where they want to shop and what they want to spend their money on, and that kind of thing. So I'm not voting against that for, I'm not trying to promote that. I certainly don't want to see it in our community, but that's just where I stand on it. So.
The reason I brought that up is our surrounding communities already have that in effect. And it was brought to my attention, a certain business wanted to move one here so we could sell it. And I do know for a fact that's a lot of money for him. He's not selling the drugs, it's just paraphernalia. And you'll need a horse of water, but you can't make him drink type of thing. But you take an alcoholic and you shove a drink in front of him, he's gonna drink it. So the less opportunity to give it, I think the better off it is, in that situation. So that's the reason I brought it up. I just think it's, and I think our residents would gladly appreciate that fact too, that we're not allowing the sale of drug paraphernalia.
I struggle with it too. Yeah, when I thought about it, I talked to them some of these, and well, there wasn't ambulance. That's not their fault.
Yeah, I totally understand the reasoning behind
Fair enough. Yep. All right, moving on to ordinance amending chapter 227, parking and storage.
Mayor and council, this was discussed at committee of the whole to have signage posting the west side of Darlene Avenue Northeast as no parking to allow for more emergency access of emergency vehicles and other vehicles that would need to access that critical route. This was discussed, as I said, at committee of the whole, posted for the required 10 days and brought before you as was written before, and staff is recommending approval of this.
Nobody commented?
Nothing beyond what was discussed.
Okay.
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilman Lundin to approve and a second by Councilman Collison. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Consider adoption of stormwater enforcement procedures persistent to ordinance 670. I believe we have MS4 Tech Corey Mueller in attendance that has a presentation for us if you'd like to step forward, sir. Hopefully I said your last name right, Corey?
Yes, you did. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Members of the council, I'd like to present the City of Isante's MS4 2018 report. I'll try and keep this brief. So a little bit about the MS4. It stands for Municipal Separate Storm System, and was developed as part of the 1972 Clean Water Act by the EPA. It was handed off then to the MPCA and they initiated the MS4 program in Minnesota in 2007. The City of Isanti has been an MS4 community since 2016, and the permit gives the authorization to discharge stormwater. And the city implements the MS4 program through regulatory mechanisms, education and outreach, and environmental protection practices. The MS4 program in the City of Isanti is possible due to our strong partnerships. Bolton Lake for one, the MNDNR, the Isanti Soil and Water Conservation District, the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency, Minnesota Board of Soil and Water Resources, and the Clean Water Land and Legacy Amendment. So as part of the City of Isanti being an MS4 community, we submitted an annual report to the MPCA as well. So for 2018, we submitted our report on May 2nd, 2019, and we had 4 reported illicit discharges in the year 2018, and we are moving toward phase 5 of 5 for our MS4 requirements by the end of 2019. So as part of our MS4 program, we have a Stormwater Pollution Prevention Plan, or SWIP. This is in 6 parts with public education and outreach, public participation, elimination of illicit discharges, construction site runoff controls, post-construction runoff controls, and pollution prevention and municipal good housekeeping. So for our public education and participation MCMs, we have the Rain Garden Incentive Program. This is largely developed in cooperation with our Parks and Recreation Department. It provides a 50% reimbursement up to $500 of the cost of a rain garden that can be implemented by residents and parents. Guidance and education has been largely provided by Isanti Soil and Water Conservation District, and we have an example on the east side of the Isanti or Arena. In addition, we publish articles in the Isanti newsletter, and resources are available on the city website and will continue to be published as we move forward with our city website in the future. MCM3 is the elimination of illicit discharges to our storm sewer system. This is covered under Ordinance 670, our stormwater ordinance. We do have a spill response plan and illicit discharge response procedure. And we do have a illicit discharge form available on the website for citizens to report any illicit discharges they may see. This is the big one. Construction site runoff controls is our minimum control measurement before. The picture there is a map that I use to mark the sites currently under construction. Even this one's a bit dated at this point. But as part of this, we maintain a site inspection checklist. We inspect construction sites a minimum of 1 every 7 days. There's a procedure and checklist we developed for use on a construction site to make sure that all erosion control is in place. And we have a priority site list procedure developed for sites that may need additional attention. Post-construction stormwater management is our 5th MCM, and we've developed written procedures for site plan reviews prior to the start of any construction activity to ensure that erosion controls are in place before the ground is even broken. Again, these are tracked and enforced erosion control procedures through the checklist. And as part of the ERP, which will be the next item of discussion, we are developing civil penalties and additional enforcement procedures for 2019. Lastly, it's our responsibility to maintain good erosion control practices too. So this is MCM 6, good housekeeping, pollution prevention. Part of this is a facilities inventory of our stormwater structure and our stockpiles of salt and other things that could possibly contaminate the stormwater system. We look to identify current stormwater practices with any improvement, and we implement further good housekeeping structure as it comes up. And for the future, we will continue to implement and improve our stormwater pollution prevention plan. As the MPCA moves forward, they changed their MS4 permit, so we must change to that too. The silt watershed assessment was made by Santee Soil and Water Conservation District, and it outlines some grant opportunities for future city projects. And Bolton Meg has been instrumental in helping us work with Santee Soil and Water Conservation toward that goal. And Bolton Meg has also been a great boon to us in enforcing and regulating some of our bigger developments, namely lakes and heritage estates. With that, I'd like to thank you for your time and answer any questions if I may.
I guess, maybe if you could put in layman's terms for people in the audience and people that might be listening at home.
Sure. So as the MS4 technician, I look over current construction sites in the city to make sure that our storm sewer system isn't being polluted in any way. Since we are adjacent to the Rhone River, we are deemed an MS4 community for that purpose. In addition, I make sure that us as a city make sure that we manage our own practices wisely with stormwater as well. So in a way, I guess I kind of represent the NPCA, or I represent the city to the NPCA would be a better way of putting that.
I will just add, so for everyone, Corey's job is to make sure that he 100% is making sure that anything that goes down the stormwater system is water. That's what's designed to go down, and that is all that should go down. So if paint spills, excessive, anything coming out of your yard, whether it be
Grass clippings.
any of that, that is what he is passionate about keeping out of our system. Thank you, Corey.
So are you the one that also would implement those fines? I saw it in the proposal here, the 200, the 400, the other stuff, all the fines.
Yes, that was with the help of many people, but yeah, that's a model followed by many MS4 communities.
So who pays that? Is it the construction site, or is that more level towards the residents themselves?
That would be the contractor responsible for paying those fines.
Any other questions by the council?
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Corey.
Thank you.
Ms. Wood, does that not cover A through E? Did he not just cover that?
Yeah, Sheila is going to be touching on the rest of those items, so I'll let her touch on those.
Ms. Selman?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That does touch on the next items. That's why we had to do the presentation first. What's before you is the resolution for approving the enforcement of the response procedures, the ERP. That is what Corey just went over. That is the document that contains those fines that Mr. Brody just discussed. It also, we need to also adopt, and I'll just go over them all. You have to make some motions, but also looking to amend ordinance 670, which will adopt the ERP. We also need to amend chapter 675, or chapter 6, 65. That's for the administration penalties that are in with our ERP and give Corey the authority to do that. Also, 160 is our fees, our fee schedule, so we need to add those new fees in, and we have the escrow that we discussed, that's also in that ordinance. And then there's also a resolution to adopt the fees, and in that resolution also includes, just because we wanted to adopt the fee schedule one time, it also includes the fees for the pet control. And it's not related to this, but it is in that resolution because it is a fee schedule. Hope that made sense.
I make a motion to move forward with A through E.
I have a motion by Councilman Lundin to adopt A through E. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Councilman Collison. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0.
I just want to add one thing, is a lot of people seem to think that, you know, the city wants to do these things, and this is put upon us by the EPA and the state, and if we don't follow suit with these things, we could lose our LGA funds, we could end up with fines and repercussions. It's not something that, you know, I'm a firm believer we can self-police ourselves, but, you know, cities don't produce anything to make money other than having to collect fees and fines and such and so forth. So we come largely upon, you know, LGA funds and everything else. So, you know, this program, some may think is kind of BS, but it's a necessary evil that we have to follow suit with. And it's not just the city of Iceni, it's all cities throughout the state and all other states. So the EPA they got some big shoes and they kick pretty hard. So just so you're all aware, it's not something that we really want to do, but it's something, it's a necessary evil.
But it does protect our environment within the city limits, which is what we do want to do.
Yes, and that we do, yes, totally. You know, and then that's another one that goes on top of that is the wellhead protection. You know, all other city wells that go down, any runoff that can get in there and contaminate the well source, groundwater source, that's what that protects. So it snowballs down and it creates more and more issues. So that's why we have to follow suit with these things.
Okay, with that being said, the resolution for the 2019 approving an interim use permit for operation of a tattoo studio located at 303 Credit Union Drive.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This item went before the Planning Commission. We held a public hearing. There was nobody from the public that spoke on this item. We need an interim use permit to operate a tattoo studio located in the D2 General Business District. They do meet the criteria for the interim use permit. In the resolution that's before you tonight would be approving that use, and there are also conditions that are listed out in the resolution. There are 4 conditions that would apply to this use.
Make a motion to approve. Second.
I just have one comment real quick. I don't think it's probably all that important, but it says Sunday to Sunday, 10 to 8 p.m. on the hours of operation. That's 7 days a week, right?
We actually do have the tattoo shop owner here present. If you don't mind stepping forward and answering Councilman Gordon's question. Yeah, go ahead.
That's for future. We only have one tattoo artist that's going to be working to start with. That's him right there, and he's going to do, Tuesday through Saturday.
Okay.
That would just be for future use. If we get another artist in, that their schedule works, that they can only work Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. We wanted to cover all bases and say that it's possible that it might be open.
Well, yeah, so,
It won't be.
okay, but that's all I was curious about. I just wanted to make sure you got all the hours you were wanting to get on that, so.
Yep.
It just said Sunday to Sunday, so I thought that the way that read, it just looked like you would only be able to operate on Sunday, but that's not what you
Oh,
actually.
no,
Right.
Sunday.
Sunday to Saturday, right,
I guess.
what you want.
Yeah.
Right.
Sunday to Sunday.
7 days a week, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Fair enough.
Thank you.
I have a motion to approve by Councilman Lundin and a second by Councilman Collison. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same side. Motion carries 5-0. Resolution approving a minor subdivision for Dollar General at 340 Palomino Road Southeast, PID 16.029.0900.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This item was before the last planning commission meeting. They held a public hearing. This item again is just for the minor subdivision. It is creating 2 lots. Lot 1 would be 1.3 acres and lot 2 would be 2.51 acres. Both of those land areas do meet our requirements for the zoning district, and the planning commission recommended approval.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion to approve by Councilman Collison. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
I have a second by Councilman Lundin. All in favor, say aye.
No discussion, no discussion.
Would you like a discussion, Councilman Burgley?
Yeah, this does not cover the landscaping stuff. right?
No, this is just the division of 2 lots.
That's just a subdivision.
Okay.
The next one, I believe, does.
It was addressed in there. It talked
Yep.
about-
The next one on your list does.
The next item is the site plan.
Oh, okay,
That would cover what you're talking.
okay. I must have read it as one, so.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Resolution approving site plan for Dollar General located at 240 Palomino Road Southeast. I think that's a typo, isn't it, 340? Or am I, no, that's right, 240, I'm sorry. PID 16.029.0900. Two different addresses.
Yeah, it says 2 different addresses on the first one and the second one.
It says 340 on one, 240 on the other.
Let me just look at this really quick.
Maybe it's a typo on the agenda, I hope.
Sorry, this was on my item, so I'm quickly looking it over to see. Well, we have the correct PID number, so we can just go with that.
Okay.
So this item was before the planning commission for a public hearing. As you mentioned, there was comment at the public hearing. The site plan is for lot 1, the newly created lot 1, and that is for a Dollar General to go there. The site plan and the proposed use do meet zoning guidelines. The planning commission did recommend approval with conditions. Additional conditions were set by the planning commission about adding landscaping and fencing along the north side for more screening. The residents that were present at the planning commission had concerns about the use, also had concerns about what the use could bring as far as light pollution, garbage, distraction, that type of thing to the neighborhood. So that's why the planning commission went ahead and added the condition that they provide the screening, landscaping, and fencing along the north side. And the west side, actually. And remember, it's just on that lot 1, not the whole entire lot.
And that covers what Councilman Burgley had questions
Just
on?
wanted to make sure that it was,
Okay.
I thought it was, but I thought it was, because I would say that it was going to be covered later.
Yeah, it's in the site plan, was all. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Motion to approve by Councilman Burgley, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Collison, all in favor, say aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Resolution authorizing preparation of plans on the Annex Partial Services Access Improvement Project.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of council. So this is the study that we did to evaluate the recently annexed properties that have a sewer or water main adjacent to their property. The evaluation reviewed the cost to extend a individual service to the right-of-way at any of those locations. As discussed at COW, it was recommended to construct those sewer and water services to the right-of-way at the parcels that don't have a future project already planned in the capital improvement plan. As requested, we sent out a letter to those residents that are on those future projects to ask if they had a desire to be looked at earlier, and we did not receive a response from any of them. So I guess at this point, we're just recommending doing the recommended portion that do not have a future project and proceed with the plans and specification and development as described in the report.
So that's just those top properties, right?
Correct, just the, if you're looking on that table, the top half essentially are the parcels that don't have a future project that would be associated with them in the capital improvement plan. I guess another piece of information that we were asked to look into was the estimated cost for each resident to hook onto the service stub, at which time their sewer or water system fails, their septic or their well. And it is essentially determined that the cost to do their private side of the work to the right of way for the sanitary was an average cost of approximately $11,000, which is on the low end of a cost to fully replace a septic system and drain field. And the cost to connect a private water service from the house to the water service stub on average is estimated at $7,500, and that is on the low end of replacing a full well and pump. So once their sewer or water system fails and they are required to switch over, the cost would be comparable to the cost to just replace their system.
Any questions by the discussion by the council? Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
I have a motion to approve by Councilman Collison. Do I have a second? Second by Councilman Burgley. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Resolution consideration of whack and sack fees for Village on the Rum.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As you may recall, we talked about this at the committee of the whole. Villages on the Rum was platted in 2002 with 261 lots, with a mix of housing styles from single-family detached, townhomes to bay homes or patio homes. There are 32 lots left that are undeveloped. A developer has come in and asked the city what would the sack and whack fees be if he were to replat those lots into single-family lots, going from 32 lots to 16 lots. The reason the question is asked is because there are 2 services to each lot. The city did not install those services, but there are 2 services, and if they went down to single-family lots, they would only be using one of the services, and we'd ask them to cap it at their expense, the one that they don't use. So what is before you tonight is, what does the council want to do for something like this? We want to put it in resolution form so that if this developer leaves and another one comes and asks the same question, we have the answer. Because there wasn't clear direction given on this before. So when you look at the resolution, you'll see that it says, now therefore be resolved that the sack and whack charges for the remaining lots of Villages on the Rum, if platted into single-family lots, shall be 1 or 2 for sack, 1 or 2 for whack. And we're not going to put a dollar amount in case it comes in 2025 and the dollar amount's changed.
Here's the question that I'd have on that. The builder goes in there and he wants to eliminate it down to 1 whack and sack. And as you said, if it ever changed where somebody else took it over, then all of a sudden now they want to go back to building the townhouses again. If they're going to cap them, that's fine. But if another developer comes in and decides to put it and use both of them, they're going to have to pay that other whack and sack and whack fee on that other line, even though it was capped.
Correct.
I want to make sure that's very clear.
Yeah, well, Mr. Mayor, they wouldn't cap it, it would be at their expense, so they wouldn't cap it if they weren't going to develop.
I get that, but developers do move on. You know, I mean, I know the person that has them, he's had them for a long time, and that's one of the reasons I was in favor of going down to the 1 whack and sack fees. But if he sells it to somebody else, and somebody else says, I want to put in townhouses again, so we need both of them, oh, well, we eliminated 1 whack and sack fee. You're going to use both services. We got to be able to recoup that cost of it again.
Yeah, and
I want to make sure that verbiage is that way.
and tell me if you think this is fair, and then now let it be resolved. It does say the remaining lots, if platted into single-family lots. So if they go back to townhomes, then they would have to be the 2. Because you're saying here specifically, single-family lots should be 2 or 1, however you want to say it. But I think that makes it clear.
I'm just gonna have Councilman Lundin look at the piece of paper you're looking at, Ms. Selman. I can get over to it.
And Mayor and Council, we can add that additional language where Ms. Solomon did state for the single-family lots shall be and townhome development we could put both in the resolution, so it would be very clear then, given what Ms. Councilmember Lindy was stating.
Do we possibly want to table this and bring it back with the correct verbiage?
I don't think so. I think we can, as long as that verbiage is put in there, we can, you know, I didn't really see it that clear in there either when I looked at it. I just want to make sure it's very clear, because it's very easily understood. Well, you only have to pay for one. No, well, wait a minute. No, that was only if it was a single family home. Meat and potatoes is the easiest way of explaining something. You know, I mean, if you have it straight out drawn that way, then there is no argument on any part. So I would be in favor of going down for one whack and sack fees on individual homes with the verbiage stating that if it does go back into townhomes, they will have to pay the second whack and sack and whack fees. I make that motion.
I have a motion by Councilman Lundin. That's a lot to add to that.
No, it's not. It's just,
One sentence, staff will add it, and we can send that back over to council.
I meant it was a lot for me to say.
no. Grow some hairs, you might double catch it.
True. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Collison. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries as Councilman Lundin wanted so. Resolution for 2019 CUP and site plan extension to operate a retreat center and hobby farm.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In 2018, a conditional use permit and site plan amendment were approved for the Circle B Ranch and the Nest development with certain conditions. As far as a conditional use permit goes and the site plan goes, you have 1 year to implement that use. And if you do not do that within the 1 year, the permit does become void. The applicant has requested that an extension for the conditional use permit and the site plan, no changes to what they're doing. They're asking for a 1 year extension for the conditional use permit and for the site plan. They actually have been making some progress towards their conditions. 4 out of the 9 conditions have been met, and there are 5 other conditions that are hard to complete without actually having the building built. As far as parking lot and lighting goes, probably wouldn't put those in until after the building is there. They did submit for their application for the building permit last week. So staff feels that they're making a good faith effort to meet their conditional use permit and their site plan requirements. Staff is recommending a one-time extension for the CUP and site plan from May 1st of 2020.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Collison to accept and a second by Councilman Burgley. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Request for new terms on previously deferred assessment.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Is Mr. Habib in the audience? Or representative for him on this request? Okay. Staff was not sure if this individual was going to be here. The request did go through committee of the whole and is now before the mayor and council to look at their terms of their deferred assessment. So resolutions 2006-288 and resolution 2007-258 approved assessments on the parcel 16.029.2310 in the amounts of $4,775.93 and also $150,099.43 respectively to those resolutions I just listed. They were called for deferral of those payments until annexed. What the request is from the owner of the property, Mr. Habib, is that the late fees be removed and that payments be capped at $60,000 per year. Staff would like council to know that if there is any modifications to the deferred assessment on this, to anything of the terms, there would need to be an abatement of the deferred assessments and be reassessed. Staff is requesting council if they want to consider this, if there's any further discussion that we do move this back to committee of the whole, for further discussion if there is some action that the council would like to take other than what's already occurring.
Before anybody says a word, Mr. Abib petitioned for this. Now he is,
For the work, correct?
yeah, now he wants an extension. And to me, this would set a precedence to the rest of them. So,
Well, I don't think that'd be fair to other people. that
Absolutely not.
Had to pay for it anyway.
right. So I guess we probably should abate and reassess it. I don't think we should take any action on this person. I think we should set this to the
Committee of the whole.
committee of the whole, absolutely. I don't think there should be any action taken on this.
Mayor and council, just to clarify, if there's no action, if we don't want to change the terms,
Yeah, I don't think,
then there's nothing that council needs to do.
yeah, I don't, personally, I
It does
mean,
not need to go to committee of the whole. If we're-
that's just my opinion, is this gentleman, he petitioned for this. And now he gets down to where he's gotta pay these fees and he's asking for no late fees. And it wouldn't be fair to who's already paid these.
Or ones that have paid late fees and everything else.
Yeah.
And let's face it, he's asked for work.
Yeah.
I make a motion, no, I think we leave it as is.
And I would definitely second it. So, with that being said, we're gonna take no action on that item,
Thank you, Mayor and council.
unless somebody has discussion or anything else they'd like to add. No? All right, moving forward, approval of the consent agenda.
I make a motion to accept.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Burgley, Councilman Lundin to accept the consent agenda, and a second by Councilman Burgley. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Do I have a motion to adjourn by Councilman Burgley,
Second.
and a second by Councilman Lundin. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say